participants, and welcome to the August 13th meeting of the City of Tampa Variance Review Board. From my left, the members of the board are
Aaron Murphy. Todd Foltz.
Sam Decker,
Brett Feldman.
Anna Walrap.
Share Powers.
also in attendance this evening from legal, Susan Johnson-Velez, from Natural Resources and Development Coordination, Stephen Eister and Elijah Green, and from Planning, Lisa Middleton. There are some procedural rules that we'll need you to follow. When your case number and petitioner's name are called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and confirm that you've been sworn. This is really important and everyone forgets it. Name, address, confirm that you've been sworn. The petitioner or its agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons or participants wishing to speak will then have 3 minutes. Then the petitioner will have an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods as stated will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not previously been submitted and which the applicant wishes to submit to make a part of the record or would like to submit for consideration must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you must submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decision on competent and substantial evidence which is submitted and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. Please be sure to clearly state your hardship criteria in your presentation. A majority of the board is needed to approve your variance. The variance granted by the board will be only for what is requested on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms or conditions stated by the board. All other city codes will also need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of decision. If your case is continued, it will either be continued to the next month's VRB board agenda or to the next available position on an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to appeal the Variance Review Board's decision to the City Council. You must file a petition for review of the board's decision within 14 days of the board's written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until the 14-day review period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the July 9th VRB meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Ms. Walrap, second by Mr. Foltz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the meeting minutes are approved. At this time, I'll ask legal staff to confirm whether there has been any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd ask any members of the board if they have had any ex parte communications with anyone with respect to any item on the agenda this evening.
I received a good neighbor notice for a case that I am recusing myself from.
Okay, we will note that and let the record show that all other board members indicated the negative. And at this time, I would now ask any board members if they have any conflicts of interest with respect to any matter on the agenda this evening.
Same case, I'll be recusing myself.
Okay, and that is VRB 24-26.
That's right.
And I've given you the conflict form.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
All right. Are there any changes to the agenda that staff would like to address this evening?
VRB-24-23 misnoticed, so we will not be hearing that case tonight. And then 2428 was withdrawn, so.
2428. All right. At this time, I would ask a member of staff to conduct the swearing in. Anyone in the audience that plans to speak tonight or could foreseeably speak tonight should go ahead and stand to be sworn.
Do you swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. Staff can come up and present the first case, please.
So the first case of tonight is VRB-24-20. The owner is Ivan Lenore, and the applicant is Colin Rice. The property address is 801 West Adalee Street. The zoning is residential, single family, RS 50. The request is to reduce the side yard setback from 7 feet to 1.3 feet. The code section in reference is section 27-156, table 4-2, schedule, area, height, bulk, and placement regulations. RS 50 district setbacks are 20 feet from the front, 20 feet from the rear, and 7 foot from the sides. The two previous actions, there's a BLD from 2018, which was construction of the current home, and then a CMP for construction without permits. This is an aerial view of the property showing that it's in an RS 50. This is the site plan in question. You can see the area requesting a variance is highlighted in the red hashed box. This is a zoom in of that section showing the 1.3 feet from the property line. And then these are the findings from the different reviewers. Natural Resources found it consistent with conditions, that they meet all Chapter 27. Transportation found it consistent, wastewater consistent, water consistent, right-of-way consistent, stormwater consistent, and then TECO was consistent with conditions, and I attached their memo in your packet. This is the standards for the Variance Review Board for this application. And then these are the required conditions. The site will comply with Chapters 5, 17.5, 21, 22, 23, and 26, and all technical standards of the City of Tampa, and Chapter 27 unless waived specific to this request. And then I will be available if you guys have any additional comments or concerns.
Thank you. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up, and just a reminder to state your name, address, and confirm that you've been sworn in.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Colin Rice, law firm of Older Lundy, 1000 West Cass Street. I have been sworn. Here on behalf of the property owners, Ivan Lenoir and Jeannie Millara. I'll just get some materials ready for you. Use the overhead. All right, so tonight we're requesting, and I appreciate staff's presentation, they've been wonderful to work with, requesting a reduction in the east side yard setback from 7 feet to 1.3 feet to accommodate a now, as constructed, roof overhang and counter. So to orient you, we are in the Riverside Heights neighborhood, just east of Boulevard, north of Columbus. A little closer zoomed in, aerial shows you, this is a couple of years ago, it doesn't depict the installation, but it does show you the east yard, which we'll get into a little bit more, just so you have a visual of the lot. So again, here's the site plan. The roof overhang and counter are here, extending into that east setback where we're requesting the relief. It's 1.3 feet from the property line, entirely within the property. And some current condition photographs. Again, you can see the installation here, extending east off of the structure. Again, just a little different angle. The 7-foot setback applies because it's attached to the primary structure. It doesn't qualify as an accessory structure, which would have a different standard. So there's some unique factors with this property. I'm going to talk a bit about the plat, but you know, at its core, we're here based on a misunderstanding of the setback and code requirements. Attempting to fix it, it has been a learning experience and a painful experience for the property owner, but we'll go through the variance criteria. I think we've got some very unique features here that I'd like to showcase for you. And there is a larger permitting submittal in the works. This is, of course, a fork in the road variable in terms of what those plans look like, but this is all going in for full permitting here shortly. So, well, speaking these criteria here a little bit. So the plat itself is from 1925. This is a unique right-of-way in that it was platted at 55 feet wide, which is unique to all properties within this plat within 2,000 feet. There's not another street configuration like this. Again, the applicant didn't construct this home, moved after construction, obviously didn't plat the right-of-way. And here's the plat coming up on its 100th birthday. We're here. We're lot 22, block 4. This is now Myrtle, this is Adalee, they changed the name. So I think this is helpful to demonstrate that this is a 30-foot from central line east along Myrtle. So it's, again, an extra right-of-way, and the functional road classification map for the city of Tampa treats Myrtle and all of the other roads extending south, north, and east as local roads. They're designated and they function in the same way, so it's kind of an anomaly that we have a larger platted right-of-way in this instance. All right, so I'm going to show you some examples of the development pattern in this neighborhood as well. We're right in line in terms of a build to from the street front distance. We've got 6 properties I'll show you within a couple of blocks away that are all built within 12 to 21 feet of the roadway. So we think that it's an entirely consistent development pattern with the neighborhood. And again, the comprehensive plan supports creative building design for the urban character. So I'll just go through a few here. It's using the appraiser's measurement tool. We have 820, I can zoom in a little bit. It's kind of hard to see. 820 West Fribley. We have approximately 12 feet from the building to the roadway. 821 West Plymouth, approximately 12 feet from the building to the roadway. 901 West Plymouth, approximately 18 feet from the building to the roadway. 720 West Alfred, approximately 20 feet from the building to the roadway. That's duplicate, apologies. 823 West Street, about 20 feet from the roadway. And a couple of these are right on Myrtle itself. So finally, addressing the final point of the hardship criteria. This will result in substantial justice in the sense that we've gone to extreme lengths to engage with the neighborhood. There are no adverse impacts to anybody. We've got a bunch of neighbors who are supportive of this, and we have consistent findings from all city reviewing staffs, including TICO. This is an image from our unattended neighborhood meeting. We invited everybody within the notice list, but Mr. Lenoir and I just caught up over some donuts. Nobody came. And then I do have 5 letters that I will submit into the record with these slides. And just to read to you, the 3 most potentially impacted neighborhoods are all enthusiastic about this. 803 West Adalee, neighbors on the east side of the property, no objection, full support. 812 West Adalee, we hope the request is improved, a good addition to the neighborhood. Directly across the street, 802. I live directly across the street, no objections, full support. And again, across Myrtle, no objections, full support. So to conclude, we do have some unique circumstances with respect to this plat. The ultimate build configuration does have a handful of comparisons, which I've shared with you in terms of the building configuration, development pattern in the neighborhood. I'm not aware of anybody in the audience. We're not aware of any opposition at all. Every agency, TICO, has been supportive. So with that, we respectfully request your approval. I'm, of course, here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Is this a side yard setback, or is it a front yard setback because it has 2 streets it faces?
It is a good question. It is a side yard because while it is on a corner, it doesn't qualify as a corner lot because it's asymmetry. But this is a side yard, yes. Sure. I gave them to the clerk, but oh, here, I'll borrow them back. Yeah. These will go on the record. I'm just, okay. Which one are you asking for, ma'am?
Any photographs that you have?
An aerial or the as-built?
No, the as-built.
Okay. This one? It's an outdoor extension of gathering space, you know, through COVID when we were spending more time at home and wanted to enjoy our outdoor spaces. It's seating and coverage. It's an extension of the porch area.
And the setback is from 7 to 1.3, so where, can you point out where that,
Sure, so I'll do like this. So this roughly represents the setback line, right? So we're just inside of that 7-foot setback. So it's all within the property. So instead of being, you know, 7 feet off of that property line, it's 1.3 feet off.
is there plumbing there and electrical and,
Not to my knowledge. To the extent any of that is planned, there is again a permitting submittal that's imminent, depending on the decision this evening.
You mentioned that this isn't an accessory structure because it's attached to the primary structure. Do you know what the setbacks for an accessory structure here would be?
That would be 3 feet from a side yard with distance separation and all that, but yes.
So, just to get one issue out of the way, it is an open-air structure?
Yes, oh, and we commit to a condition never to enclose, but yes, it is open air.
Okay, thank you.
how far along are you on the plans for the together work?
I know that an engineer is retained, so those are in process. It hasn't been submitted yet. We wanted this element considered first, but I would imagine within the month it'll be submitted to the
The
city.
reason I'm asking is because if we grant it to 1.3, it is simply for this little piece of structure. That doesn't mean you can take the whole thing back and keep everything 1.3 feet from the property line.
Exactly. To the extent there's any confusion in the record, we'll commit to this structure being the only element subject to the variance, yes.
And how long has this been in place?
It was,
November of 2023.
Oh, very recent, okay. Yeah,
What is the distance from the road to the structure right now?
20.2 feet.
I just have a question for our council. So the request is to change from 7 to 1.3 feet, period, right? Not related to this structure, but they're asking for the setback, to reduce the side yard setback from 7 to 1.3 feet for the entire side of the
No,
home.
No,
as depicted on the site plan.
Yeah.
So we do have a site plan in our
So
packet,
just that one.
which shows the
Correct.
depiction of this. So any approval
It's just for
Well,
that.
would be as depicted on site plan.
yeah, that was.
So, and
Yeah.
where
That-
exactly
that
is
was-
it?
that
Because
was what I
it's
just-
hard to see.
Oh, sorry. Here, I'll zoom in.
No, it's hard to tell which,
Sure. So it is,
Ooh,
oh, it's fuzzy. Sorry.
It'll catch up,
Maybe-
give it a second.
Okay.
no,
I don't
No.
know.
I think you went too far.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's too far,
There we go.
that's good.
Okay, we'll work with that. Okay, so it's demarked and it's hard to see. I apologize that it's small, but it's hashed here. So structure is solid property line. It's demarked as hashed line as this is the subject of the variance.
So it's coming off of the covered pavers.
Correct.
So, and I think what Mr. Rice said was that they would accept a condition to limit it to just this structure and not the full length of the side of the building.
Yeah. And another thing, and I know you're not asking about this, and it's probably irrelevant, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Fencing and hedges, there's 4 feet in front of your house, wherever the property line is. So all those lovely trees that they've got there, once they get to 4 feet, you gotta lop them off.
Will do.
So, and I think I'm sorry, just for clarity's sake too, I think if this is gonna be the site plan, then it needs to be clearly labeled so that there's no confusion going forward what the area is that you're limited to for your variance if it's granted.
We'll be happy to make it clearer on the site plan if that's the pleasure of the board.
Any other questions from the board? All right, seeing none, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
thank you for your questions and your time this evening. We'll conclude. We appreciate your support. I'll make sure these are submitted to the record.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up for a motion or discussion from the board.
All right. I move that the variance request for case VRB 24-20 for property located at 801 West Adalee Street be granted as depicted on the site plan. Represented at the public hearing for a reduction in side yard setback from 7 feet to 1.3 feet based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that it is it's consistent with the neighborhood and other neighboring properties. It has full support from the most affected neighbors. There doesn't appear to be any people against it. Due to the additional distance from the right-of-way, it doesn't seem to have any sort of health or safety hazard. And that's all.
I'll second it if you wouldn't mind amending to include a condition that it never be enclosed.
Sure. In regards to the, well, I can do the whole thing again with the condition if you'd like.
No, I don't think you need to. I think you can just say, and I would amend to
With,
include.
amended with the condition that the addition that is off the side of the covered patio, shown as a 9.3 by 13.8 area, never be enclosed or air conditioned.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Murphy, second by Mr. Feldman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Right, your variance is approved 7-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a 2-minute break because we've had a pin explosion up here. And also, I will go ahead and pass over the gavel to Ms. Woolrap.
Choose yourself for 26.
Ister, you want to present the next case?
Yes, I will. One second.
Okay, so it's 24, 26, 30.
All right. The next case on the agenda is VRB-24-26. The owner is Jose Ramirez and Brian DeCosmo. The property address is 2704 West Tyson. The zoning is residential single family, RS50, and the request is to remove one grand tree in the center of the lot. The section in reference that we'll be using for this variance is section 27-284.2.5. Permit for grand tree removal. Application required documentation, standards, and criteria for decision. Inspections petition for review. This is an overall map. You can see the site is highlighted in the red hashed line there in the middle.
Little skinny thing.
This is the grand tree information. The tree in question is a live oak with a DBH of 40, the canopy measurement of 65 by 65, a rating of B6, and is 18 type 1 mitigation trees for its removal. These are 2 photos of the tree. So this is the tree in question. The tree in the front here is being preserved, and we'll show that in the next site plan. So the tree highlighted in red is the one being requested for removal. The tree in green is being preserved, and then we'll show some blow-ups. So this is the proposed house to show the trees with their 20-foot protective radius. This is their proposed. This is alternative 1 with a smaller house. And you can see they kind of pushed it back to the 20-foot rear setback line, which is that purple hashed line. I can try to point it out right here. This hashed line is their 20-foot setback. And then the red is the canopy for this tree here, and then the green is for the tree they are preserving in the front. This is alternative site plan 2, where it shows the reduced setback with a house of comparable square footage to the proposed. And it's shifted outside the 20-foot protective radius, but it does have canopy impacts and driveway impacts to the tree. So these are the review comments. Natural Resources found it consistent with conditions. The site has 2 grand trees, both rated B6. The owner is looking to remove the tree that is directly center of the lot and not impact the grand tree at the front of the property. Both trees have equal mitigation value. Natural Resources finds the variance application consistent with conditions. During the construction phase, further requests can be made to ensure the health of the tree in the front of the property to make sure no impacts do occur. Transportation found it consistent. Wastewater found it consistent. Water found it consistent with conditions, with the condition that tree removal has no impact to water. Right-of-way also found it consistent. Stormwater and TECO consistent with the attached memo that was included in your packet. This is the consideration for grand tree removal. And then the required condition is the site will comply with chapters 5, 17.5, 21, 22, 23, 26, and all technical standards of the City of Tampa and chapter 27, unless waived specific to this request. And then I will be available for any questions. Yes?
So, Mr. Heister, there is a newer rule that permits removal of trees within a box in the, what is the size of the property that gets that box?
So the TRZ, our tree removal zone lots, are smaller lots, usually less than 6,500 square feet. This lot is 50 by 145, so it is over both the length requirement of 135 and the square footage. So it does not qualify as a tree removal zone lot.
Okay, so it's a little too long to qualify for
Yeah,
the box. But if it did fit the size requirements, this tree that's being asked to be removed certainly would be within the tree removal zone?
Correct, if this was a tree TRZ, what we call a TRZ lot,
Okay.
which this one is not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brian DeCosmo. I reside at 235 High Top Drive in Fletcher, North Carolina. I have been sworn in, and I'm the authorized agent for the property. The property actually belongs to my parents, my mother and my stepdad, and they've owned the property since 2001. They purchased it, and there was a house on the property up until about 2000, and they live adjacent to the lot currently, to the southwest or southeast corner of the property. They originally had purchased it just to maybe add it to their yard space, do that kind of a thing. That was almost 23 years ago. So it's been sitting vacant. They've been maintaining both the live oaks on the property, maintaining the yard space, and just basically keeping it kept up. And they've done a substantial amount of work on the trees over the years as far as pruning after hurricanes, keeping it healthy, that kind of a thing. They, and by no means are excited, if you will, to take the tree down or have the prospect of taking the tree down. But as they're getting older, they're in their late 70s, and they're looking to stay in the neighborhood and have a house where they have an aging-in-place home, which would be more beneficial, more conducive to their age, elevator, bigger hallways, ADA-compliant bathroom, that sort of thing. And essentially what's, as the site plan shows, and this is just one version. Oh. Which way is it going to zoom out? Here we go. I got it. And this plan shows with the standard setback, and it allows us to do a single-story residence, roughly 1,500 square feet under roof. If you add in the garage space and a porch, front porch, rear porch, lanai, kind of a setup, you'd be looking at about a 900 to 1,000 square foot of finished space heated and cooled in the home, which would be essentially like a one bedroom. The canopy height, as you can see in the orange outlined here, is only 14 feet off the ground. That's the height of the canopy, so we wouldn't be able to do a two-story structure in the front. You could possibly do a partial in the back, but you would not be conducive to having a first floor master, first floor bathroom, that sort of a configuration for the home. Also, the other thing is my parents do and are, do want to preserve the 43-inch oak tree in the front, and even with this configuration, with the house set further back, to have an accessible driveway come through, it would be a few feet, maybe 4 or 5 feet from the base of the oak tree in the center of the lot. And then we consulted Dave Riley, who's an arborist here in the city, used to be the city of Tampa arborist for many years. And he said that, yeah, the driveway installation or having the traffic across that root system on the side of that tree would eventually damage and cause the tree to become weakened from the damage to the roots on the one side being underneath the canopy and as close to the tree base itself here. And that's a standard 16-foot driveway with a 7-foot setback. It could be set over a little bit further, but it would still only be 4 or 5 feet from the base if you did a 16-foot driveway. You could reduce it a little bit even further, but you'd still be well within the 20-foot protective radius that they're recommending from the city standards to be away from the tree for accessibility to the structure in the back. My parent, we had a couple of people wrote in, the neighbors. So my mom and Joe have been in this house, and their house is essentially located right there. The neighbor across the street wrote in, supporting the initiative. The neighbor that's on 2 houses to the left of the lot also wrote in with a letter to council, voicing their support. And they're two of the people who are going to have the most visibility, as well as my parents' own house where they are currently residing, looking back at that lot with that tree structure. So they don't take this request lightly. They don't take it. We've both been. I went to school here. My parents have been here since the '60s. Their understanding of the tree canopy, their understanding of the importance for the tree canopy to remain as much as possible. At the same time, they intended to utilize the lot a little differently than they're currently looking to utilize it now. But they're hoping that the request is reasonable, maintaining the tree in the front, removing this tree so they can use this space here to create the structure. Even by pushing back the setback, which is the other alternative that was explored, which will be this one, by pushing the setback to 12 feet, you end up with about 11 or 1,200 square feet of heated and cooled space after you take out a garage space and screen porch line kind of area in the rear. And again, you still run into the same issue with the driveway coming in to access the home will still impede the roof structure within that radius. And then another contention, if you will, talking to Dave Riley again with the arborist, that if you are building inside the tree canopy, it will still have some effect on the root system because the roots typically extend out as far as the canopy, as everyone knows, and it could create issues with that part of the tree as well by building as close to the underneath the canopy by almost 15 feet. So we're looking to see if we can be granted a variance to remove the tree and then to be able to build in the center of the lot and maintain the front 42-inch oak tree closer to the road. Thank you.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It does, thank you.
Okay, is anyone in the audience here to speak? I'm sorry, were you sworn in?
No, I was not. Sorry. Yes,
Do you swear that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Hi, my name is Alexa Jesse, and I'm a neighbor. I reside at 6220 Bayshore Boulevard. I'm not obviously right next door to the home, but I've been asked by Attorney John Grandoff to speak on his behalf to lodge his objection. He resides at 5300 Bayshore Boulevard, and so I'm going to read verbatim what his statement, his objection is, and I would concur with what he has to say as far as the deficiency of the documents on themselves and the lack of hardship as required with this type of filing. And again, this is Attorney John Grandoff, 5300 Bayshore Boulevard. He is a neighbor, former attorney at Hillward and Henderson, land use attorney. I cannot attend the August 13th, 2024 VRB hearing at 5:30. I'm delivering this objection to you on my personal behalf as a property owner and neighbor. Upon your receipt, please forward this email to the appropriate assistant city attorney. This email is being delivered to you more than 24 hours of 8/13/24 at 5:30 p.m. Please read this email verbatim to the VRB when the item is called on the agenda. Dear Variance Review Board, I object to the removal of the grand tree for the following reasons, all of which have support in Chapter 27 or because of significant deficiencies in the pending application. The statement of hardship is not sworn, signed, and notarized. Therefore, the statement may not be considered at all. The application and file materials do not prove that the corners of the building were staked in the field prior to field inspection. See 27 to 28, 284.25 paren F1B5. The application fails to prove that no reasonable configuration is possible. Please note that the platted lot is zoned RS 50, 50 by 100 for minimum lot, and measures 158 deep over 350 lots in depth on the west boundary and 143 on the east boundary. See 27 through 284.25 paren C5 1 to 4. The July 8, 2024 Natural Resources Review fails to determine and recommend whether the proposed building can be reasonably configured to save the grand tree requested for removal. Therefore, the application shall be marked incomplete and should not have been forwarded for scheduling of a public hearing. Thus, the application is out of order and cannot be heard. See 27 through 284.2.5 paren F, paren 1, 2. Besides item number 1 noted above, the application fails to request or document a yard, front, side, or rear variance or height variance as an alternate to the grand tree removal. Therefore, besides item number 1 above, a yard or height variance cannot be heard on August 13 because surrounding owners and others with standing to object are not on adequate notice of such a variance, a due process flaw. Thank you for your consideration, John Grandoff. I will note that I have contacted some of the residents in the surrounding area, and there is a resident who is materially affected, Dana Gordon, who asserts that she did not receive the notice. Of course, I did see proof of mailing and, all transparency. I concur with Mr. Grandoff's arguments, but I would also add several things. Under the statement of hardship, the variance review board shall only be authorized to grant variance, should I stop?
You have a minute.
Oh, sorry. Shall only be authorized to grant variances in cases where the VRB expressly finds that the applicant has demonstrated practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships. This home was bought in 2002 with the 2 trees right in the middle of the property. They reside adjacent to it. If you go down Shell Point, you will see beautiful homes built with floating walls, circular driveways. They can just have a variance to the back of the property. Thank you. I'm so sorry to have run over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak?
Hi.
Yes.
I haven't spoken at something like this before, and I just wanted to, when I saw that the tree was.
I'm sorry, can you
What do I
name
say?
and address and
Sorry.
whether you've been sworn in?
Obviously, I said I haven't done this, I don't know what I'm doing.
No
Leslie
problem.
Farrell, 2315 South Occident Street, Tampa.
And were you sworn in?
Yes, yes. I just wanted to speak because I have seen so many trees coming down in our neighborhood, and it's just really upsetting. And as we all know, the benefits of trees, and I just would hope that they are able to work around that. I mean, we've seen like flooding increasing and so many problems happening as the trees have come down, and so I just wanted to express that. So I'm hoping there's a way to save it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've been sworn in, Allison Date, Tampa Tree Advocacy Group,
Address, please.
2403 West Chicago.
Thank you.
Thanks. You guys are in a different configuration today. It's kidding me. I'm reading this for another member of our group who can't be here. And so I didn't know a lot about this, but so I'm going to read what she had to say. To everyone concerned, from Carol Ann Bennett. I want to reiterate the concerns expressed by Mr. Grandoff. This application is legally fatally flawed. It should be denied outright or denied a month or delayed a month until the shortcomings can be fixed. Among the many flaws Mr. Grandoff outlined is that there is no reasonable reconfiguration documentation, that the house cannot be reconfigured through changes in height and setback restrictions as allowed by and required by code. In addition, a variance to reduce the rear setback more than what is allowed administratively would create the room necessary for even a very large house. And that variance is vastly preferable to removal of such an amazing live oak. Unfortunately, she can't be here, but the owner legally has responsible use of their property without removing that protected tree. Please deny or delay this variance request. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I've been sworn in, Pamela Jackson Haney, 3014 West Harborview Avenue in Tampa. I'm here with TTAG also to speak on behalf of the trees. As we know, these grand oaks only make up 3% of Tampa's tree canopy, which is pretty shocking to hear, but 3% of the 100%. So that's why, we try to save everyone we can. I enjoyed listening and appreciated what the speaker said about his aging parents wanting to move into a smaller home. And I would hope that that could also be done with saving both trees. It is 158 feet on one side is what I'm looking at with these proposed plans that were submitted. And I'm just wondering if it could be reconfigured with a vertical request for going higher, but I know they're aging, or perhaps different setbacks instead of going just 12 feet back. maybe, I don't know what the requirement is and how many feet you have to be off the property behind them. But I'm wondering if there's some way to reconfigure this so that we could save this grand oak, and it is a B6, by the way, which is pretty unheard of these days. Also, I just wanted to point out that they are entitled to only reasonable use, not maximum use, of this property. And hopefully, you know, they could make do in a smaller house with what they need also by also saving the tree and reconfiguring the driveway if possible. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Tasia Stagg. My address is 2905 East Okara Road, and I was sworn in.
Thank you.
I'm a medical doctor. I was trained at USF and then did residency in a program called Public Health and General Preventive Medicine, so I'm trained to care about the public health, and that's part of my concern here. I would echo what the previous objectors have said. It's a grand tree in good condition. It's valuable to the community. Your decision isn't between whether it's not between keeping the tree or being able to build. You can have both. Also, I would contradict some of the claims in the statement of hardship. The claim that the tree makes building any structure on the property nearly impossible. That has not been demonstrated. I don't believe that's true. You could say that the hardship was self-created because they did purchase this with the trees already there. And I would say that the variance they didn't claim that the variance wouldn't affect the community other than welfare, but I would say that it could affect the public health. And like we've said, granting the variance, they're allowed to develop and build even if you don't grant the variance. So. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll go to board questions.
So I don't know if this question needs to go to legal or to development staff, but we've heard some objections from some of the neighbors about the legal validity of the submitted application. And I'd like to ask somebody, staff or legal, whether the application before us meets the VRB rules and requirements to be appropriately considered this evening. Is there anything missing that you see that we should not consider this, or that this petition should be delayed because something is not completed in the application?
So I know one discussion that was had was about the showing of the limb structures that impact the house.
Sorry, Susan Johnson Velez. There are requirements in the tree removal code for what the application has to contain, and so I think, Stephen, that's what was being referred to by some of the public comments, and so maybe, Stephen, you can go over that first, and then we can talk about that.
So the first thing we need to do is figure out, are we allowed to look at this?
Yes.
So this photo, I believe, is a generic tree photo, but it does depict the height of the first branch, which is 14 feet, and then a height of a one-story structure, which was proposed in alternative 1 and 2. This is the proposed here, which is a 2-story. This is alternative 1, which shows the 20-foot setback, and then alternative 2 here shows the reduced 40% reduction in the rear that they are allowed by code. So those two conditions have been met. They show the lowest limb, They show the canopy outlined here in red. And then the survey showing the 2 trees, and then it was also in the presentation. The factor of the staking out of the site before staff goes out and evaluates, I typically don't require it because we're in the phase of we're reconfiguring the site. If I could look at this site here, I can see the tree is within the garage, and then I'm going to look at 20 feet off the tree and make that assessment in the field with the tape. I bring out 100-foot long tape, I'll mark the tree, I'll walk out 20 feet from the face of the tree to make any assessment on what's going to be impacted. I'll do the same with the limbs and the canopy. So if we look at this tree, I don't know why my photos came out in black and white, but this second tree here, we'll zoom in. This is also in the PowerPoint, but you can see there's multiple this is that 14-inch limb, which is right here, which would most likely be removed, either just to get general vehicles in there, not just anything for construction, trusses, etc. So to me, with the root impacts with construction and the impacts to the radius, I didn't require the site to be fully staked out. But they did depict the 2 alternative site plans, and they did show the lowest limb and how that corresponds with the proposed structure on this alternative site plan, which is a 1-story building in the rear. So we moved the application forward.
May I ask a question? So if these limbs are gonna be trimmed for car or whatever, how much clearance are we getting there? I mean, I'm just trying to understand how
Yeah.
much of a house you can get in there.
So-
I have lots of these things, these trees at our house, and the limbs are higher,
Yeah,
but
so the
they
issue.
were trimmed.
The issue we're gonna have, or they're gonna have really with this lot is, it's all new. So the driveway is gonna be new. The construction for the driveway is gonna be new. And then the vehicles to get in the rear are gonna be large, whatever you would deliver trusses on, say, so that's a semi-trailer that you're gonna back into the site. So if we're going 14 feet, I think most bridge clearances are 16 to 18, which is already 2 feet up. So you're looking at a driveway and a semi. You know?
That's a big one.
So that's kind of what was looked at.
Would that hurt the tree? If you removed a limb that was that low?
Yeah, because it's this whole limb, because you're gonna have to take it all the way back to here to the trunk. So this whole section is going to be gone. So you're gonna have a narrow, kind of this more narrow canopy left, because everything from this Y is gone.
That's really useful substantive approach. I don't want to leave the rule issue yet, though. Ms.
Yes.
Johnson-Velez, so we heard Mr. Eister say that in his discretion, it was unnecessary to do the stakeout before he viewed it, and that he was able to evaluate the measurements without that information. Is that within staff's discretion to address it in that fashion?
I mean, all I can tell you is what the code requirements are in terms of what is supposed to be submitted with a tree removal application.
Okay.
So it does require here in the code in 27-284.2.5 that corners of the proposed buildings or structures or additions be staked at the site. And then if corners are not staked prior to field inspection, then an additional 15 days will be added to the review period of the application. So these are all requirements. I'm looking at the word shall in the code that talks about what has to happen and what has to be included in the application.
Okay, so it sounds like the code specifically says if it's not staked, then they get 15 more review days?
Well, and it's correct, before the application
Right.
would be deemed complete, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
so is that measurement met for today's hearing, or do we need to give additional time?
Well, I don't know if the corners were staked on the buildings or not. Perhaps either Mr. Eister or the applicant can testify to that, because I just don't know if they were.
I know when I went to the site, the corners were not staked.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
What about the review period?
Oh, yeah, how much, when did you go to the site?
So I went to the site when the application came in. We see these for pre-apps, so I would have to look back in my notes when I looked at the site exactly. I'd have to look at my calendar. That's where I track everything.
At least when I had.
Did you want to talk about it? When
Yeah, I mean, just
the
from-
stakes were installed?
Sure. We originally were conversing with, I should say we, myself, on April 9th, when we had submitted the application, which would have been 4 months ago at this point. We explored at that time for the tree removal zone, but it was determined the lot was 10 feet too deep on the short side to qualify for the TRZ. If that wouldn't have been the case, I wouldn't be here today. It would have been a process of the rule for the code. And then we had, and then we also had, let me see, we'll go back to find Lisa's email, maybe Mark's. And then we had a conference, if you will, on April 18th for the pre-conference or submittal. And then we got a review back May 23rd that we were missing something from the application that was submitted after staff reviewed the application. On May 23rd, we got an email stating that there was something that had to be amended to the application to make sure it was complete. So we did that about a week to 10 days after that fact. So we probably had our final version submitted about the first week of June. I can't speak exactly what they uploaded to Excel, but I would say it was about a week or two past the May 23rd notification that the application was needing an amendment or a change for something on the documentation on the site plan.
Right. The issue that I'm trying to hash out for you, and what I wouldn't want to have done, is have a substantive evaluation and approval or denial of your petition, and then have that issue be
Nullified.
obliterated by the fact that you haven't, the rules don't allow us to consider it on this date.
And
that's
I
why
couldn't
just
hear
wanna
how the
make
code.
sure we're on
No, I hear you.
the same page.
And I couldn't hear, the microphones aren't very loud in here today for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I'm having a hard time hearing some of the people's comments. They're a little bit far from the microphone. So if you could, if it would be possible, could you reread the section of code that's
Sure,
referred
it's
to?
section 27284.2.5, which is the section that speaks to permits for grand tree removal, and it talks about quasi judicial hearing, this is for grand tree removal, and speaks to applications for variances for grand tree removal and what those applications must include and the information that has to be in there and that has to be on the site plan.
I just want to hear the actual verbiage for the 15-day statement that you've made.
Well, it says the corners of the proposed, so there's a list of 5 items that have to be included on your site plan. There has to be a tree survey, and then the corners of the proposed buildings, structures, or additions shall be staked at the site. And then those have to be there when the field inspection is done by the natural resources coordinator. And if it's not, then there's additional review time, so that the corners of the buildings that's proposed are supposed to be staked on the site.
Okay, but you said if it's not staked, it says there's an additional 15 days time needed for review by staff. Is that what it says?
Correct.
So I guess that question becomes is that, so that if they reviewed it sometime in June, because we had
Were
approval.
the corners, do you know if the corners were ever staked?
They were not, it was never part of the requirements that were handed to us through the BRB package.
So if the corners were never staked, then I would think that the best decision would be to continue this hearing so that that rule can be met, and they can have a determination without that issue in front of them. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, then if that's the case, I'll move to continue this.
Can I ask a comment before
Sure.
before you move to make a motion?
Sure.
So the 15 days, why is that not included in the time period from the time that he went to site to the time that the hearing's been held?
The rule talks about an extension of time from the time when the building parameters are staked. And if they were never staked, that time frame hasn't started, as I understand it.
Okay, and what he was saying that we don't typically require it to be staked, and so every variance we've done for tree removals in the last year or two has been not staked?
That's not necessarily correct, but as it relates
could
to
be.
your petition, you've got an
Okay.
objection that's saying that you're not in compliance with the rule. We could go ahead and rule on it, they'll challenge it, and you're gonna lose.
I understand, that's fine, I'm just asking the question because the 15 days, so they're saying they want us to go, it's not another 15 days to review, they want us to go back and restake and then reevaluate if our survey's correct?
I think they just want it staked on, I mean, read the rule.
Yeah, I
and-
think we're just trying to make sure all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed on your application
But
itself, so.
but it doesn't say, the rule says if it's not staked, they need an additional 15 days to review the application. It doesn't say to go back and restake it and let's reevaluate in field.
Yeah, well, look, here's,
I'm asking the attorney, I'm sorry.
I mean, we've got, Ms.
I mean, yes, I heard what the attorney said, and she told us what I think we should do. I can do that.
Okay.
Or we could
No, I'm
ignore
just-
it, we could move forward, and let's say we approve it.
or we
You've
don't.
got an objection that says this rule has not been met, and if those people go to city council or to the court and challenge based upon this decision, you just wasted your time.
Okay.
So,
And
I
I'm
think
with you.
we'd started a motion here.
well, but we haven't actually closed the public hearing part. So, yeah, technically, we should do that before we move.
I
we make a
understand,
motion.
but he came up just
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of without
So-
being asked to come up.
So if I can just clarify,
I think-
just a few more,
yes.
so if all of the components of the application are not submitted, then the application should never have been deemed complete. And unless an application is complete, it should not be set for hearing, so it's kind of just for further
No, that's okay,
clarification. So, yeah.
I understand.
Okay.
But it's,
For further clarification, because there's a lot of back and forth about these corners being staked. Is it required for the corners to be staked?
Well, I'll just read you from the code. The corners of the proposed buildings or structures or additions shall be staked at the site. So
There's
shall-
nothing else other than, that says
Well,
if
no.
they're not, there's
If
no
they're
if
not.
they're not.
It says if the corners aren't staked before the field inspection by the natural resources coordinator, then an additional 15 days shall be added to the review period in this code section. That's to allow for another visit, I assume,
For them to be staked.
so that, right, so that the natural resources coordinator can see where the
Okay.
proposed building is going to
So
go.
it gives them another 15 days to do
To
that.
complete that and determine whether the application is complete.
Okay, so a determination, just to be clear, a determination based on this application should not have been made without the building being staked, correct?
Well,
can I
It doesn't-
ask
We were
a
in
question
board
about this?
questions
Here.
when we did this, and
That
I'd like Ms.
well, it
Johnson
doesn't
Velez
appear
to
that the
finish.
application was complete.
Correct, okay,
Right.
that's what I wanted to hear.
Right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And I got another question in regards to that, though. This is gonna throw another wrench in the
we were in
works.
board
If that's the
questions,
case,
so we keep
are we
going.
just arbitrarily staking a size of a house that we're
You're
expected
gonna
to
have
do?
to work that out with the
Okay,
permitting
well,
officials. And I think what we're getting to here is that our
Okay, that's fine.
attorney is telling us that we don't have everything we need to rule on your petition. Therefore, you started to make a motion.
But we have to close the public hearing.
Well, okay, close the public hearing.
Public hearing.
I mean, we should finish question and answers. If we're done with that, then I'm okay with moving forward with a
Well-
motion. The way I see it, and I'm listening to what the code sections require, it sounds like it would be risky, if not erroneous, to rule on a petition that's here before us with these objections in this issue. So with that in mind, I'm gonna make a motion to continue. Do we have space on the next month, and would that be sufficient, would we have sufficient time to get the stakes and review period completed before the next hearing, before the September hearing?
September 10th?
Right, it's 1 month from now, right?
And I guess I'm gonna suggest too that we make sure that the site plan complies with all the requirements as well, just to make sure that we're,
Okay, so then it would make sense to move it not to September, but to October.
I think if the applicant is okay with getting it staked out by September
and
and updating the show.
Oh, that will give you sufficient time to do the review, okay.
Okay.
What about the noticing requirements?
They don't have to be renoticed, he's done the notice, right?
well, if you continue it to a specific date.
Oh, the notice will have to be redone to identify the correct hearing date.
Well, if you continue it from tonight, you can specify the hearing date
Oh,
and time and location.
Gotcha, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Took me a minute.
But I think it would be helpful too, or I would suggest that perhaps the applicant would meet with staff again to talk about the site plan, make sure that those requirements are met, as well as the corner staking. I don't want, I mean, it's an issue that's been raised, so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I hear
everything
that.
is-
Did you hear that?
All the i's are dotted and t's
Yeah,
are
we're-
crossed.
So the only issue that I'm recognizing, if you will, is that we just want to assure that the site plan meets all the requirements. And then we just have to go back in field and stake the corners of the proposed, the first alternative. I mean, I guess would be the question. I mean, because there's 3 alternatives being proposed.
No, it's the proposed building that you
would
want to
be-
build.
Correct, that's what I'm saying, the proposed
Yeah.
preferred house staking.
Yeah.
I also heard something about a notarized document. What I think you need to review, there was a very specific objection in that letter.
It's
So
all
if
in the
you have-
public records.
On the public record, I would
I have it.
review that and make sure all those things are addressed. Therefore, to try and, if it was ruled in your favor, there's gonna be an objection.
Yeah, these are all procedural issues
Sure.
that have nothing to do with
I understand.
the substance of what you're asking for. That aside from, the substantive issues. But logically, it makes sense to continue this. So if we were to go into September, what was the date and time?
10th of September.
Okay, so then I move that variance request VRB 24-26 to remove 1 grand tree for property located at 2704 West Tyson Avenue be continued until the September 10th VRB hearing at 5:30 PM.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Likewise, nay. Okay, so we will see you back
Thank
in
you very much.
September.
I hope so.
All right, Sam, you ready to take back your chair?
Just to pick the good ones to skip out of.
Right. I think the next one on our list is VRB 24-27.
All right. The next application on our list is VRB 24-27. The owner is Johnson Brothers Liquor Company of Florida. The applicant is Ricky Pederica. The property address is 4520 South Church Avenue. The zoning is commercial intensive. The request is to reduce tree retention from 50% to 0%. The code section of reference is 27-284.2.5. Non-wooded sites over an acre require 50% tree retention. There is a building permit that's in review for parking lot improvements. So this is the site in question. It's a warehouse in the commercial intensive district. This is a site plan showing the trees on site. The area that's going to be in question is to the south. These are the trees requested for removal and that are triggering the retention percentages. Natural Resources found the request consistent with condition due to the following. The site's over an acre, but only contains 10 trees, fair or better. So making the retention percentage hard to accomplish. They also submitted a replant plan that covers some of the mitigation. And then transportation found it consistent, wastewater consistent, water right-of-way, stormwater, and TECO. So this is the standards for the variance. And then these are the conditions. The site will comply with chapters 15, 5, 17.5, 21, 22, 23, and 26, and all technical standards of the City of Tampa in Chapter 27 unless specifically waived to this request. I also added the condition of mitigation shall be planted on site. Due to the site having power lines that run along its perimeter, many of the trees that were here have been kind of Tico pruned, to say nicely. So they do have space to replant and bring their landscape back up to current standards. So after mitigation has been exhausted through that means, if there is a remaining balance, they can handle that through the fund. And then I'm available for any comments or questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Ricky Paterica with Dark Moss, 308 East 7th Avenue. I've been sworn. With me also is Brandon Rupert with Johnson Brothers, if there are any operational questions for the application. I am still reeling from that last case and potential implications, but let me kind of catch back up to what's before us. This is a bird's eye view of the subject site. The crosstown is shown or the CSX line next to the crosstown is shown in this corner. There is an elementary school, play fields, and lacrosse fields across the street. A vacant industrial parcel to the south, and more kind of large industrial parcels, a playground my kids like over here in this area. And the nature of the request is a conversion of this stormwater pond facility here into a vaulted additional vehicle use area with the stormwater underneath. And that is triggering a handful of trees in this area to be removed. And as Mr. Eister said, and you can see here, the site is almost completely developed already. There's a few scattering of palm trees along the perimeter. There's 3 laurel oaks here on this this perimeter here, and there's a couple sable palms and live oaks here. The challenge, as he mentioned, is, I'll start this over. We assessed 15 trees on site, 14 are protected. Of those 15, 5 count towards retention. They're oak trees. 5 of those palms don't. We're removing 4 of them, and we are requesting an additional 1 just because every tree counts so much that we're putting in a safety factor. But the challenge is, as he said, that every tree, imagine a site with 1,000 trees on it in New Tampa. This is the exact same code provision that would apply, and 500 trees would be able to be removed per code. Here, where only 5 count, every tree is much more impactful to this request. If the 3 laurel oaks, I'll pull out a picture of them, here were not Tico pruned, as staff noted. Sorry, that came out worse than I expected, but they've lost half their canopy, therefore we graded them poor as the arborist of record. Poor means they aren't counted towards retention. If they weren't pruned in this manner and without overhead power lines, these would have counted toward retention, they would have been retained, and this request would not be required. So, it's specifically from the formal impact to these 3 trees that would have offset the removal of the trees, these are the trees in the pond area that were here before you. We're still in permitting. For the building permit, and one of the comments is to request a variance for tree retention, and this is still being finessed with the building permit comments, but we're proposing back more trees than exist on the site currently, more non-palm trees. So really this request is a technicality of timing
in that there's no prohibition from planting trees on site at any time, landscaping, essentially. Had we, I didn't recommend we do this, but had we planted 3 6-inch trees anywhere else and surveyed them, we would have not needed this request. Had TICO not utility pruned these trees, we would have not needed this request. And if this request was made after mitigation was provided or required trees were planted, we would not need this request. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I wish I could comment on the last one, but I will welcome any questions. Yeah, thank you.
There's public comment. Come on, you just jumped up and said something.
I don't
What are the trees that you plan to put in place there?
Yes. Let's go ahead and just belt and suspenders, make sure no one in the audience would like to speak on this application, and then we can start asking the applicant some questions. Anyone in the audience? All right.
Because this is a stormwater pond conversion, we're proposing cypress trees on that south side. This may change slightly with the with other comments from staff. They may change back to oaks, but there aren't power lines here, and we aren't considering any planting here yet. But if that condition were considered, that staff mentioned about planting mitigation on site, we would consider the whole site to make sure we've met that requirement.
So where is water retention happening? Was that a swale?
Oh,
and it's been used for something else?
It's faint here, but it's in stormwater vaults beneath the parking that they're built.
Okay.
And that will be permitted as needed.
I guess my one request is to ensure, like, if you're gonna plant trees within the power lines, I mean, obviously you don't wanna put cypress in there so that they end up being like TICO cut.
Correct. And so there aren't power lines on this facade.
Oh, okay.
So where we would only be allowed to plant power line, overhead utility approved trees in this area, those typically count 3 to 1. So we are, for the mitigation alone, we're required to plant 6 live oak style trees at 2.5 inches. If we planted crepe myrtles, we'd have to plant 18. And we could, I mean, that's a design exercise, however that would shake out. We could do it in a way that would be compatible with the overhead constraints.
Thank you.
So if I understand this correctly, the trees that were utility butchered, they don't count at all towards this? They don't count as trees even if they're being...
In 2021, the code change, so to clarify that retention only counts for trees rated fair or better and are not palms. So we have palms, we have poor trees, and they are not considered.
Go get your money from TICO.
All right, any other questions from the board? Seeing none, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal if you need it.
No rebuttal, thank you.
Is there a motion or discussion from the board?
He already did one.
Yeah, he did. He took the easy one, I think. Yeah. He was smart. He was like, I got it. Good job. All right.
Don't forget to add, Mr. Iser's, that the mitigation happen on site. You requested that.
Okay. Do we use the 27-284 for the tree retention?
Okay. It's, here you go.
For approval of tree removal?
It's 2780, the standard variance,
This one?
Yeah, reasonable use.
the reasonable use one.
Oh, it's this one. It's just a standard variance. Okay. All right.
It's easy.
Tree retention, so it's, we could just use the approval rule with that. Okay, see? Yeah, you're right, it's easy. I'll try this again. All right, I move that the variance request for case VRB 24-27 for property located at 4520 South Church Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for the reduction of tree retention from 50% to 0%, with the condition that mitigation be made on site. Great. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the existing trees were significantly pruned due to overhead power lines, not by the applicant, but that other existing trees on site do not count towards tree retention, and as a consequence, the trees that are being removed are the only real trees on the site, and that removal is required due to the stormwater retention.
Second. Motion by Mr. Feldman, second by Ms. Walrath. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Your variance is granted 7-0.
Thank you, board.
The last case on the agenda for tonight is VRB-24-33. The owner is Sergio and Julia Lucas. The applicant is Daryl Kurtz. The property address is 4909 Lyford Cay Road. It's a residential single-family RS 100, and it's a request to reduce the primary setback from 20 feet to 7 feet 3 inches for the construction of a pool. This falls under Code Section 27-156, Table 4-2, Schedule of Area, Height, Bulk Placement, Regulations of RS 100. District setbacks are 25 feet front, 20-foot rear, and 7 foot on the sides. There have been 3 previous actions. There was a release of easement that was done before the case came forward tonight. There was a BLD for the pool permit, and then a BLD for the new construction. This is a aerial photo of the site outlined in red, showing it as RS 100. This is a site plan of the pool in question that is being proposed. I'll show a zoomed in version here. So the setback due to the pool being elevated needs a reduction in primary structure setbacks due to the code requirement. This is Natural Resources found it consistent. They've already approved the BLD permit for the pool, so I made no comments at this time. Transportation, wastewater, water, right-of-way, stormwater, and TICO were all found consistent. TICO was consistent with conditions, to see the attached memo. And then this is based off of 27-280, the application for variance for the hardship. And then if approved, the site will comply with chapters 5, 17.5, 21, 22, 23, and 26, and all technical standards of the City of Tampa and chapter 27, unless waived specific to this request. And then I'm available if you guys have any questions or concerns.
Yeah. All right, and as a reminder to the applicants, to state your name, address, and confirm that you've been sworn in, please.
Daryl Kurtz, Steve Geiger with Cody Pools, 6846 North Del Mabry, Tampa, Florida, 33614. Both have been sworn in.
Stephen Geiger, 6846 North Del Mabry Highway, and I've been sworn in.
Just real quick, you can kind of see the existing site. This is from the back porch of the existing house that was built. In that whole grass area, as you can see, where we're gonna build the pool there. These are just different views, basically, of the same thing, showing that existing retaining wall kind of there. That, you know, was not anything we did. It was built by the builder and approved on the building permit. Again, kind of just down the waterway there. kind of an idea of the pool that's gonna be built there. It does show a little dip over there by the pool, but that is the retaining wall. It will go straight. It's just a flaw in our pool studio mock-up. So it will actually go straight across there, and that is the retaining wall. So it's a little bit out of scale, but gives you a general idea of what it's gonna look like coming across the back there. Last one. Again, just right there in the back of the pool. So, original house was demoed with the existing pool there, so this property originally had a pool. When the builder developed it, he put that retaining wall in there, so that requires a main structure setback to use any of that space that I was just showing you. Any accessory structure can't go into that space because now that retaining wall's there. So the homeowner cannot use that back area whatsoever without a variance. And so we applied for our pool, found out that this whole area needs that variance for us to put that pool in. The retaining wall, again, existing, was really developed for, and kind of homeowner wants the pool. That's kind of all I have. Any questions?
All right, does that complete your presentation?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to open it up for comments from anyone in the audience. Seeing none, open it up to questions from the board.
When did this owner acquire the property?
That I do not know. Do you know when Lucas bought it?
I do not.
Recently.
But
Because the building permit was in '23? Yeah.
So the homeowner acquired it from the builder?
No, he
was the builder?
acquired it and then got a builder.
Ah.
To develop the property, and not demo it and build it up to what he wanted. It's a big, nice 2 or 3 story home on there.
Okay.
So there was I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Nope, I'm done. Go ahead.
So there was another home with a pool there
Yes.
prior?
Yes.
And the house was torn down?
Yes,
And they built a new home?
correct.
And what happened to the existing pool?
Demo 2. Where that space, that green space that I showed you,
Mhm.
that's where the pool was. So it was demoed
And
during
how
that time.
how does this new pool compare in size and shape to the previous one?
Give you kind of a rough idea. This is kind of the original plan there. You can kind of see there's where the original pool was, kind of, sort of. And then, with our new plan, there's where the new one's going. So
Thank you.
pretty close to the exact same. Not, a whole lot of difference. You see the 10-foot utility easement, so it is pushed back 2.5 feet, but it was all level. That retaining wall didn't exist, so it wasn't 5 feet off the ground originally.
I have a question for staff. So, but for the retaining wall, this pool would not be considered part of the primary structure. Is that an accurate statement?
Correct. Once the water level is, I want to say is 11 inches above grade, it triggers primary structure setbacks. So if they could construct the pool on grade, then they would have a 5-foot buffer from the rear property line.
In theory, dig down and put the pool lower, and they wouldn't need this
Correct.
variance.
They have a big old bathtub then.
I'm not saying that that's what they should do. I was just trying to make sure that I was understanding. Okay, and that's why the prior pool likely didn't need a variance, is because it was at grade.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And the retaining wall was constructed, I'm assuming, to get the house out of the flood zone and make it a safer spot, I'm sure, which was required. So they would have had to have a lot of steps down into the pool area, should they not have put the retaining wall and lifted up the the ground?
So I talked to building, because this did go through a building review again, because the retaining wall was not part of the original plans. I think the builder added that.
Without a permit.
And filled it in, and then, the owner got the
Gotcha.
wall and the elevated backyard.
Very good.
Right. Any other questions?
And I'm assuming that the retaining wall was put in for flooding?
I can't speak to that. I just know once the wall was in, they did a revision to the building permit. It went back through building review and it was approved.
Okay.
And the CO was obtained. That's,
So it's approved, okay,
that's all I know.
that's good to know.
No, I just wanted to clarify, so Stephen, that there was a statement made that nothing can go with this area, is that? Did you look at the building permit to?
Correct, because what they did was the retaining wall was constructed up to the finished floor elevation, which raises it all above the grade that's on site. So most things, if you look at the code pools, they have the 11-inch thing. An accessory structure would be only would lose 5 feet in height because it's up above the grade. So a lot of stuff is based off of finished grade, and this would be 5 feet up, according to the pool company. So everything would be cut off by 5 feet. So they could do an accessory structure, but it would have to be reduced down in height, per se.
Thank you. Right, so you have 5 minutes for rebuttal should you need it. Before I close the public hearing, are there any other questions from the board?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Powers?
Just trying to figure out the hardship here.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna close the public hearing and open it up for discussion from the board. Sounds like we'll need some of that. Seems.
The retaining wall was put in after the fact, but it was approved. So it wasn't like, right, it was approved.
Yeah.
So nothing has been technically done improperly, correct? Okay, so it is what it is now. And so
Yes.
because that's there, right, that's creating the issue with building a pool.
Yes, sir.
And if it had not been built, they would have no problems because they would be within the 5-foot setback as required for a pool on grade.
So I have a feeling that some of our board members are thinking, this sounds a lot like a self-created hardship.
It does.
And I can sympathize with that. If the builder, the homeowner had not built this retention wall though, it seems like there is a lot of risk of flooding and, hurricane problems. And so it's, the sort of health, safety, and welfare factor that we think about sort of counteracts that in my head. But for the fact that the house is on the water and we live in Florida,
Yeah.
it might not have been, a self-created hardship. So, I don't have a huge issue with this. A lot of the time, we're concerned about backyard neighbors. We don't have that issue here.
It's not gonna add any height by doing this, basically just keeping what's there, just putting a hole in the ground, that the issue is right there.
Perhaps they can drain the pool and accept more water when, yeah, there's,
Well, the original, clearly the original structure
right.
was much lower than the current structure is, and the current structure is to code now, right? They built a new one, which made it higher. They put the retention wall in because everything is raised higher now, right? So from my perspective, I understand the hardship because they had to build the house to the current code, which raised the house. They put the retention wall in. It wasn't something that's like, oh, let's build a retention wall. That looks like fun. It's there now, right? So the only way to build the pool is to do it as they're saying because of the nature of how the new home was built. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah, and it's reportedly, when they built it, it's to code, any kind of stormwater mitigation that would have had to happen. They've already taken care of that as part of the original permit, so, yeah, I don't see any.
Spend a lot of time and money and effort on this plan.
Borrow your sheet, I will. Hold on, the computer's still, hold on, I still have electronic one here. There we go. All right, I'll move the variance request for case VRB 24-33 for property located at 4909 Lyford Cay Road be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the primary setback from 20 feet to 7 feet 3 for construction of a pool with encroachments for even, I guess, no encroachments, based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence of the record that the public hearing, the necessary hardship and practical difficulty when constructing 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that this is an existing piece and it would be a bigger hardship to try and dig this piece out, which is already a permitted structure that exists, in order to put the pool in.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Foltz, second by Mr. Fry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Your variance is approved 7-0.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are we doing an election? Or are we doing that next? Okay. Okay. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
So will you be here next meeting?
She's going, she's moving like tomorrow.
Oh, I wasn't sure.